Welcome to the Focus on Why podcast. I'm Amy Rowlandson and I ask my guests one simple question. Why? Focusing on the importance of why, I share with you the relatable, uplifting and inspiring conversations I have with people from all walks of life. This podcast will encourage you to focus on your why to enable and empower you to achieve the success you desire. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why. Before we start, I would like to draw your attention to what I can offer you as a master coach. I can help you to focus on your why with clarity, uniting your passion with your purpose with a plan to create the life you truly desire. Book a free 20-minute coaching call right now via calendly.com/Amy Rowlandson/call, and we can take it from there. Today on Focus on Why, I'm joined by Mark Saxby. Mark, welcome.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm very good indeed. I'm always good. I'm awesome.
Yeah?
Yes, I like answering that way. I don't like when people say, how are you? And they say, well, it could be better or fair to mid. And I always say, no, I'm awesome because I am awesome. Not awesome as in a person, as in I feel awesome because life is awesome. And
it is that question. There's a bit of a social nicety, isn't it? In terms of it's a greeting more than a question almost.
Then I always think as well, and it's such an opportunity to show that you are maybe a little bit countercultural or that you think differently. And I love surprising people as well. So when you answer in an unexpected way, straight away, it puts across something about you that is, well, can be either negative or incredibly positive.
Yeah. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you today?
112, I would say.
All right, I can see where this is going. So tell me, Mark, what is it you're focusing on at the moment?
So I'm focusing on, it sounds like a really big answer, but actually I was thinking, what am I really focusing on? I'm focusing on being a human being and not being a human doing. Because I think I've been it's very easy to feel like you need to be doing something all the time to kind of achieve a purpose or achieve a goal or feel good about yourself. And I've realized actually I need to just do a lot more. I mean, I'm already on a process of it anyway, but I just feel I need to do a lot more being, a lot more enjoying the moment, a lot less doing, a lot less wondering about what I need to be doing in the future and just more enjoying today. So, that in terms of the bigger picture, that's certainly where I would say is my focus at the moment.
So you could be a human enjoying. That sounds cool. I like that. But also the human having, the human thinking, we can get swept up with other elements in life.
Yes, absolutely. It's very easy to feel like, especially when I've got a business, I've got a charity, I run a church, I've got a family, I've got loads of other things that I do, and you think how there's so much stuff buzzing through my head, and I think I need to just let it rest, and there's things you can do that's in your control, and there's things that aren't in your control, and working extra hours to try and get things to happen is not really always going to be the answer. So being yourself and enjoying who you are and putting that out there, whether it's in conversations or whether it's on social media, then you win over so many more people than trying to kind of force the issue of who you are.
And this clarity that you've got about understanding what's within and what's not within your control, has life always been that clear?
Oh no. So I was a journalist for best part of 20 years on and off, and it was very much in my mind my career path was to be a bigger and better journalist and to get higher up the food chain. And I finished off at the BBC, and when I was there, it was, even though I was working as a news editor in a radio station, I was still thinking, oh, what's next? And I remember one of my colleagues saying, Mark, you're not really focusing on us. You're too busy thinking about the future all the time. And I thought, yeah, that's a good call. I need to stop doing it. So it's very easy to be focused. And then in the early days of the business, so we've been going 13 years now, Status Social, and you feel like you've got to do a lot of doing because, new businesses, there's a lot of hard work. You feel like you've got to be out there all the time, doing stuff, probably working into the evenings. We didn't work much in the weekends, but there was definitely that feeling that we ought to be. least I ought to be. I'm not sure whether my wife Kerry, who's in the business, thought the same. I suspect she probably didn't. She's probably got her priorities a bit better than mine. So you feel like you've got to be doing all the time. And then it's interesting, actually, it kind of happened, that feeling of being a human being was partly through, the charity, because so our charity goes into schools, helps young people take back control of their lives from social media. Amazing, we've been growing so fast. We're become from being a local charity to a national charity in just over a year. We've got deliverers across the country, from Commonwealth Games stars to Cirque du Soleil performers to experienced speakers. It's amazing. So it's growing so fast. And I think in my head when I wanted to start the charity, it was about wanting to feel like I was giving something back. But actually, what I realise now, it's not about that at all. It's about just enjoying life, enjoying the charity, and just what comes out of it is what comes out of it. I don't need to achieve anything in life to be. I can still be. I can be who I am by not achieving things. Which, taking another step back to why I got to that stage, was by realising that my Christian faith is the biggest part of my life. I live my life with Jesus, and it's all very it's about a purpose with him. And I realized that I was probably putting my purpose not in Jesus, but actually in the charity or in Status Social, or before that the BBC. And actually none of those are healthy, because none of them will ever achieve. You can never get your satisfaction out of a business or a charity. I don't think, not your total satisfaction. There is so much. It's a balance, isn't it, across business, work, charity, family, marriage. Everything you do, and you can only really do that by being, and then allowing what you're being flow out through everything else that you do. I'm not stressing about the bits, but focusing on the most important bit. If you focus if I focus on my faith, and the other stuff kind of then flows out of it.
And I'm wondering, Mark, because you have this amazing work with the charity, and it's grown so fast, that you have that privilege to have that position of saying, actually, it's now not about this. But I still wonder if it is, because if it wasn't having the effects it has, then you would potentially not be as relaxed as you are. Does that make sense?
It does, except I would say that I got to this stage before the charity really took off.
Okay.
I think it was in the starting point of it taking off, but it's certainly very. I think it was this. I would say this revelation really happened at least 5 or 6 months ago, and the charity's only been going properly for about 18 months. So it's not. I think there is, without a doubt, it is easier to be when you're not. You're not trying to. You're not worried about things. But I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? We had one of our, so we manage social media accounts as well as I train, and one of our clients said they were going to take it in-house, which is great, because sometimes it's better for the client that way. And in the old days, I'd have been like, oh, this is terrible, we're going to fill the gap. You feel like you've got to reach your target, and I didn't feel like that. I just thought, oh, great, another opportunity to do something new, to just to enjoy what's happening, and not to go rushing around to find something new, but just enjoy what we've got, and not to worry about how much money's coming into the business and what that looks like, because that's still not as important as enjoying the moment, enjoying life.
Tell me more about this revelation that you felt you had 5 or 6 months ago.
So I was every morning I get up quite early, because with any relationship you're supposed to spend time with your loved one, and often we I think as a Christian often it's easy just to go to church and that's it. Well, I think it's more than that. If you want to get to know God, I need to spend time with him. So I get up early in the morning, spend about an hour chatting, listening, reading my Bible, and it was during that time when I just felt that it just came to me, just whether it was God speaking to me or whether it was just my own revelation of that in some ways, actually, I think when I'm thinking back, it wasn't even that I realized that I had to let go. It was more that I realized that I had let go. So it's something that obviously happened over time, rather than being a kind of a revelation. Because there has been revelations. There's been times when when I was at the BBC where I realized that I put it on a pedestal and I needed to let go. My identity was in the BBC, and that wasn't helpful. And I needed to just lay it all down. And when I laid it all down, then ultimately, then I left the BBC. So sometimes there are those moments of revelation, but I think with this kind of human being rather than human doing has been so much more of a thing over time. And I probably as well suspect, thinking about it, is that it was more about understanding that God wants me to be who I am and not what I do. And then that then fed into me thinking, actually, for Positive Social, it's more important about, God will bless. It'll happen. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't matter. If Positive Social, because one of my thoughts was, and I'm talking a lot here, Amy. One of my thoughts is about legacy, and people obviously get very obsessed by a legacy. And I thought, I want Positive Social to, after I die, to carry on and be my legacy. I don't care less now. Do you know what? I can't worry about legacy, because that's just, again, it's twisted logic. You just end up thinking of the future when I want to enjoy the now.
So a lot of people speak about living legacy. They talk about the work that they're doing now, and they're being very much a part of it. So it's not something that you are just worried about leaving as part of your estate or as part of what you've done, but it is very much that you're an active part of it now.
Yeah, I am. Absolutely. That's the way I see it. Every it's like, we just come away from business meeting, and in that business meeting, the conversation somehow ends up talking about Jesus. And I came away from that meeting thinking, well, we didn't achieve any business goals, but we enjoyed the moment, and we talked about Jesus, and the person we were talking to had no idea you could have a relationship with Jesus in the way that me and my wife did. So you think, well, great, that's legacy, isn't it? That's the influence. And I think as we've all got something that's about us that can transform lives, that we need to share, whatever it might be, whether it's just enthusiasm, whether it's a knowledge of something, whether it's being a good mum, having some, how to be a good wife or a husband. They're all amazing things that we can share, and we have so much value to give other people. And as long as we're having those human to human conversations and we're being open, and we can just change so many lives, and that's legacy. That's living legacy.
What I want to ask, there's a couple of questions that have come up as you've been sharing. Purpose with a big P. I think I'll go there. So how does the faith element of purpose fold into your work?
So, I suppose my big purpose is to know God and to make him known. How does that fit into work? Well, in terms of being we're a values-led business. So we operate according to 9 values, the top 3 being honest, ethical, and providing excellence. And I think, and as our mission statement as a business, is to have a positive impact on everyone we come into contact with. So from a big P point of view for work, for Status Social, it's about having that positive influence. Well, whatever it might look like, like from somebody who came in on work experience who was completely, just utterly broken by her school, shy, who then went on to go to university in America, tried to talk somebody from Apple, the head of Siri, who she happened to be sitting next to on a plane, into giving a work experience, transformed her life. That's amazing. So those sort of things, or having a conversation with somebody where you just give them encouragement. So, or in the work capacity, running a LinkedIn workshop for somebody, and then being able to go away and make, like a few of our clients have made more than £1 million through social media. That's amazing. Because, when you help somebody to grow their business, you give them the tools and you show them how to win people over. And I know that our social media training is so different from others, because it's not about this is how you use LinkedIn, this is how you use X, this is how you use Facebook. It's about how to understand people and then how to win them over. And of course, if you're teaching people how to understand people, what that then does is actually gives them skills for life. So you're having a positive impact in that way, as well as through the business way. So that's where my big P fits into kind of the whole thing of Status Social. And we didn't have values for about 4 or 5 years. But when we did, and then we kind of evolved them and grew them through the business for the next 8 or so years, wow, how much more enjoyable the business has become because of that.
And this is the thing. So it folds into the conversation of focus on why. So it's not just about starting with, because absolutely the why as the emotional significance behind your purpose, it evolves. And so do your values with the business, and so so does the purpose and what's happening. And I just wanted to sort of, the way I see the values that you share, I see those as approaches, and approaches that you would expect a company to be working with. And I just wondered if there was something that comes to mind in terms of a real core non-negotiable that is a way for you that guides you.
So in terms of as a business,
No, well, just you as a person. I mean, at the moment you are the business as well. So I just,
mm,
what do you bring to the table that is at the core of and at the heart of the strategy of everything you're doing?
and if I look at those, so, I mean, it's interesting because I do think with those three things, being honest, ethical, and excellence, they very much knit together. Because I think that, for instance, a good example would be that we strive towards excellence. Sometimes we fail. When we fail, we're then ethical because we're honest with our clients. When honesty means when a client comes to us or a potential client comes to us and says, can you work with me? And I look at what they want and I just don't think it's right for them. Then I say no, and I be honest, and I say we can't work with you. It wouldn't be ethical to work with you. We wouldn't be able to provide the excellence. And then on an ethical point of view, we had one of the world's biggest companies approach us earlier this year. And they're 20% owned by a company that's known to be unethical, and me and Kerry have actually boycotted for 30 years. And I had to say to them, look, being honest, I said, you're part owned by a non-ethical company, and we are ethical, so we're gonna have to turn you down. And I'll tell you what, I put down the close the Zoom, and it was that horrible sinking feeling of, wow, that could have taken our business to another level, but I've turned it down for our own values. But you know what, it was the right thing to do.
I hear you, and it is important, especially in the world that we live in. It's everything to have that reputation, to know what you stand for and what you stand against, and not making that a divisive, but literally understanding what it is that you really do hold meaningful to you. And what I've heard from what you've shared in terms of the core elements that I'm hearing is this faith, trust, balance in everything you're doing, in everything that is important. And I wanted to ask you the question of, at the BBC, your question that you had always floating around was, what's next? What's the question that you ask yourself now?
How can I have more of God, so that therefore then my relationship with Him flows even more through the business, more through the charity, more through my marriage, more through my life with my three children. How do I have more? How do I tap into more of that relationship? How do I develop that more? Because the more I have of that, the more it will flow. The more I understand God's Father love, the more then that love will flow through me into other people that I meet. The more I recognize how God is the provider, the less arrogant I am, and the more humble I am. Things like that. I just think my big question is, how do I bring in more? Because there's still lots of times during the day when I don't. I'm trying to do things on my own strength, but whenever I do things on my own strength, it inevitably doesn't work out as well as when I try and do it in partnership with God, who's the kind of, we see as the CEO of our business. We ask him questions. We rely on his guidance. He's given us. The Bible talks about it's a two-way relationship. It's not just us speaking into the skies and hoping he's hearing. There's been times when God has said, this client's gonna finish their contract with you in the next few weeks. And we're like, what, really? Well, where's that? There's no sign of that. And suddenly we get a call, and they're going to do it because God's been preparing the way. So those sort of things, they're really, they're exciting. But I want more.
So it's like that feeling that you had as a journalist, where you wanted bigger and better and more in that respect. That it's just a different channel now that you've been able to connect with.
Yeah, well, one of the things that Jesus talked about was he came to give life in all its abundance. And although, I definitely am experiencing a lot of his abundance. I don't mean abundance in a material way. I mean abundance in like enjoying life, having more. I think there's more to come. I want more abundance.
And in terms of what that will allow you to achieve, Mark, and I'm not talking about, again, material achievements here. I'm talking about how will you know when, is there an end point?
I don't think there's an end point, but I do. I suppose I hunger for there to be more impact. You know, it's great having the one-to-one conversations, but I'd love to be able to, you know, change more lives, whether it's through positive social, through status social, or, you know, on a faith level. All those things, I would love to be on a bigger stage, and not because I want to look good, but because I think, you know, the more people you impact, the greater it is, isn't it? And if I can go, you know, if I do a session, so when we do parent sessions online for positive social, you know, on behalf of positive social, and you have 50, 60 parents in a room, and they all make commitments to be better parents, and they all say they're going to set a better example of not being on their phones in front of their children. You think that is amazing. You know, those sort of moments where you can impact such a lot of people across the whole country. I know it's only 60 parents. Ideally, it'd be 600 parents, 1,000 parents, you know, 1 million parents. That sort of thing would be amazing. To have positive social go. I mean, our ambition, our plan, my vision for positive social is to get into every secondary school in the UK. You know, if we're having every child in the UK go through a positive social session, helping them to make better decisions about how they're using their phone and social media, that would be amazing. But I'm not counting the numbers as a sign of success. It's more about, actually, I think it'd be great if there was a way to be able to do more while also not compromising on the things that I think are important. So, you know, I don't want to spend less time with my family and my wife and my friends. I want to get that balance. So I kind of need to cheat more. You know, I don't know whether you can open any doors, Amy.
I'm afraid I don't have much connection with the same levels of God. You know, it's not something that I have access to, I'm afraid.
Well, funny enough, actually, I thought this the other day. I was thinking about, I really want more. And I thought, what? How do I get more? And I remember I was on that day. I was sending a few messages on LinkedIn to different people, and then that evening, I was talking to my friends about how I needed to be more a human being than a human doing. And I took the revelation. I just said, why am I doing again? I've gone back to doing. I need to do more praying. I need to do more speaking to God. He can open so many more doors than I can open.
And it's interesting. Let's talk about opening doors, because you've spoken about how you are spending the mornings with your very focused practice of being able to chat and listen and read and have these special moments. What you're doing in terms of taking your work into secondary schools and helping them to understand how they can have a healthier relationship with social media, what will that then enable them to do going forward?
So I think with the students, it's interesting, isn't it? Because people sometimes say to me, Mark, how do you know you're going to do these sessions and they make commitments, but how do you know they follow them up? Well, I know for starters, some of them do, because I know people who've been through the sessions and the way it changes their lives. But I also know as well, what we're doing is we're giving young people permission to live life in another way. Now, they might not do it straight away, but do you know what? The fact is that when we go in, we won't be forgotten because we're so good at what we do. And therefore, then they will remember that moment for years to come. And it might be when they get to 15, 16, 17, maybe they're even 25, 30, but they'll think, actually, I have been given permission not to spend 6 hours of my life, of my day rather, on my phone. I can spend less. I don't need to be on every social media channel just in case I'm missing there will be the impact. And I think, you know, you've got to look long term on these things, because if you just look at we know what kids are like, we know what adults are like. You know, I've faced my own daily battle with not spending too much time on my phone. So why should we expect children to be able to get off phones straight away, especially when their mums and dads are on the phones all the time? But it can be. I know we're achieving goals from that way, and I know that young people. I mean, I love the commitments. Like some of the kids say things like, "I'm going to spend more time with my mum and dad because I recognise they're more important than my phone." That's a great revelation for a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old. Or I'm going to go outside and play with my mates more often, play football, and leave my phone downstairs when I go to bed from now on. I'm not going to put it under my pillow anymore. Things like that. They're really good. You know, they're great ways. You know, when you see young people have that revelation, It's amazing. And young people often seem to have the revelation a lot quicker than adults do. Adults seem to hold onto their phones as like, well, it's part of my life. I need it. While children realize that actually they don't need it, and life is much better when they're not on a device.
Yeah, it's a key life lesson, isn't it? What is it that you need to give yourself permission for, Mark, if anything?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, our life's really good. We don't like we have we do well. We're I get a great work-life balance. We take the whole of August off work. We just come back from building homes in Mexico for in the slums of Ensenada in Baja California. I don't work weekends. I don't work evenings. Yeah, I've just been away for a lovely romantic weekend with my wife. I, it's life is good, and I know there'll be challenges. There've been challenges in the past, but I know that when you keep a positive outlook and you don't rely on yourself for the solutions, then life is a lot easier even through the hard times.
And the message that you would have given yourself 20 years ago, what would that be?
Oh, I wish I'd realised I could have been a human being 20 years ago. Because I became a Christian when I was 21. So, and it's with all things, it's a relationship that develops over time. And I would say it's only in the past maybe 6 years that I've gone to a deeper level. Very interesting actually when I think about it. One of the things that I do a lot, and I tell my 19-year-old son to do, who's failed his driving test 3 times, is you need to surrender. Surrender more. My daughter's just passed 2 exams, and she's been so pleased. And when we prayed in the morning before she's left, it's about when we're weak, God is strong. So surrendering. And I wish 20 years ago, if I'd said to myself, you need to surrender more, Mark. Surrender to the things you can't control. Surrender for help. Don't feel like you need to be self-sufficient, because that's not a clever place to be self-sufficient.
And in terms of the surrendering, again, it's knowing that what lies outside of your realm of control is letting go, and it is an incredible freeing activity to then, okay, well, I actually can't affect that. And as you said, you were always worried about the future. Again, you can plan, but you can't predict what the future outcomes are going to be.
Yeah, I see a lot actually as being a parent. When our 3 children were born, one of the first things we did was we knelt by the bedside and we surrendered our children to God, because we said we can't look after them all the time. You can. We can't control what's going to happen. We can't control the circumstances, but we know that you can look after them. That doesn't mean no harm or any pain's going to come to them, but we can't protect them. And I often see parents, and they're holding on to their child, and they're so worried and scared they're going to get run over, or they're going to they're going to get kidnapped, or whatever it might be. And I don't have that fear because we surrendered them. It doesn't mean I'm little concerns that pop into my head if my son's out a bit late. I think, oh, what's going on? But what I don't do is I don't stay awake worrying. I'm still fast asleep, and my wife is the same. We surrender, and we've got to keep on surrendering, because you can bring back get the offering back, and you can pick it up again. So we've got to keep on surrendering. But that is I'm so glad we did that 19 years ago with Sam, our oldest, because it's made parenting so much more enjoyable.
And in your faith, Mark, how does purpose sit? What role does it play?
Yeah, I don't. I suppose it's hard to know, isn't it? Because I suppose purpose. What's the definition of purpose? Is the definition of purpose, again, does that come back to doing, or is purpose just being? And if it's being, then actually just getting to know God and having that and enjoying the relationship with Him. God sent Jesus to die on the cross that we could have our sins forgiven, and just kind of not feel tied up and tied back and held back, rather. And actually the purpose is, I suppose, the more I understand of that, the more that's the purpose. Just to know Him, just to having a relationship with the creator of the universe. I mean, it's flipping ridiculous. It's amazing. Well, what other purpose can there be in life?
Well, everybody has their own, which is the beauty of it. It's and this is the thing. It's not something that you find in terms of the why. People say, I want to find the why, or my why. And it's not from looking externally. It's from within. It's create and felt from within. And that is different for everybody. The way I see it, Mark, is meaning is found in reflection and purpose is created through the subsequent action. So I talk about reflection with action as being the practice of where you take what you reflect on, what you see meaning, and the moments and what you see their meaning to be, and then what you then translate that into. That's how I see reflection with action, meaning and purpose come together.
So I suppose I would see it as being, okay, my purpose is to know God, and the why I am the way I am is because I want to reflect that. I want to reflect God's character in what I do. So I want to show love to everyone. I don't want to judge people. I don't want to assume people have got to have a faith, because that's obviously ridiculous. People have got to make their own choices. So it's about loving others, and then when you love others, then you encourage the best out of everybody and myself in return.
It always comes down to love. Everything honestly, the purpose for everybody, I would say that it does come down to love. It can be reduced to that one element, and which is why I was almost challenging the values and asking you just to have that one core value. And yeah, it is that love.
Yeah, maybe we should get rid of all my 9 values and just say love.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's easier to remember for sure.
Easier than 9. People have always said you had too many values, Mark, and I think you've just proven it, Amy.
So in terms of how people could get in contact with you, Mark, what's the best way for them to reach out?
I'm on all the social networks you can imagine, although to be honest, the ones I only really use properly are LinkedIn and X. I'm on Facebook as well, but obviously that's just for friends. So that's the best way. You can also contact us through my email address, which is mark@statussocial.co.uk. If you want to know more about the charity, then we've got a website, positivesocial.org.uk, and the email there is hello@positivesocial.org.uk. So I'm everywhere. If you do a search on Google, I tend to come up pretty high up. There's not many Mark Saxbys. I was, for a long time when I was at the BBC, beaten by the England cricket coach or cricket physio, Mark Saxby, but he's now dust. It's now me. At least today it is. Tomorrow it'll probably be him again.
Oh, shame. Well, all of those links are in the show notes. So if anybody would like to get in contact and they see value in what you've shared today, then please do reach out to Mark. Mark, thank you for sharing your faith, for surrendering to the conversation. It's always a brave one to go deep into the heart of why we're doing what we're doing, or why we are who we are. If you want to go from the being perspective, for sure, why you're being who you're being. Thank you for that. Do you have some final words for the audience?
Just, do you know what? I think we need to accept who we are and enjoy who we are. We don't need to be somebody else. But I would also say that there's probably more that you can enjoy in life. The life is there for abundance. There is an abundant life. So whatever that might look like for you, don't settle for humdrum.
How has this conversation had an impact on you? What value have you received from tuning in? What are your reflections with actions? Please take a moment to leave me an Apple Podcast or Spotify review sharing how Focus on Why has made a difference to you today. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. To keep it going, simply connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook or Twitter, or join the Focus on Why Facebook group. All the links are in the show notes. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why.